Hi, I'm Susan Keefe from Rhubarb Cod, and today I'm overthinking French onion soup. French onion soup is one of those cheap and cheerful classics that seem tailor-made for January. French onion soup has roots that reach all the way back to ancient Rome, where 8,000 years ago, people were serving up bowls of heavy, onion-rich laden broth over bits of stale bread. In fact, the French word soup is derived from the vulgar Latin word soupa, which means bread soaked in broth. The French onion soup we know today took form at some point in the 18th century. There are two competing stories/myths that surround the soup's creation. The first gives credit to a ravenous Louis XV, who with the help of his great-aunt, turned butter, onions, and champagne into a meal. The other credits Nicolas Appert, who incidentally also invented. I think I get excited because I say it right and then I don't remember what I'm supposed to say after that. Should we tell people that I'm challenged at speaking French? Or should they just figure that out for themselves? The other credits Nicolas Appert, who is also the inventor of canning. Story has it, Appert made it for the Duke of Lorraine when he was visiting his daughter, Queen Marie. Yes, let them eat cake, Marie. Apparently, the Duke was so taken with the soup that he went down to the kitchens to learn it so he could take it back to his court. Once the soup arrived in his court, it became a huge hit and was apparently celebrated for its ability to conceal a long night of drinking, and thus it was nicknamed the soup of the drunkards. Is it true? Who knows? But what we do know is that in his 1831 cookbook, Appert dedicated his recipe for the soup to the Duke. But enough about its origins. Let's make French onion soup. We're going to start by chopping a ton of onions, 7 to be exact. Just cut them into half moons. There are a lot of tricks out there that claim to help you stave off onion tears. In my opinion, none of them really work. But what does help is turning on your hood vent, working with a sharp knife, and starting with cold onions. But you're still probably going to cry. And that's okay, because it's okay to cry. Next, we're going to thinly slice 4 cloves of garlic. The garlic isn't traditionally included, but when confronted between a choice of garlic or no garlic, I'm always going to choose garlic. Once the garlic is chopped, your chopping is more or less done. Place a large, heavy bottom pot on medium heat. Add a 1/4 cup of butter and let it melt. Once the butter has melted, add your onions along with a couple generous pinches of salt. The salt will not only season the onions, it will also encourage them to release their sugary juices, which will help jumpstart the caramelization process. I like to add 3 to 4 sprigs of thyme and 2 bay leaves while my onions caramelize. Ordinarily, I would add these herbs to a simmering stock, but when it comes to French onion soup, your stock isn't going to be in the pot for very long. Now we want to cook the onions until they turn amber and are practically mush, but we're going to do this slowly and gently over low heat. Check on your onions and give them a stir every 15 minutes or so. This can take up to 2 hours if you really want to develop a rich onion flavor. But you can pull your onions earlier if you prefer a lighter tasting soup. However, it certainly shouldn't take you less than 45 minutes. When you feel like your onions have about 15 minutes left, add your garlic. If you try to rush this process by increasing the heat, you run the risk of cooking all of the onion's liquids off and burning them, leaving you with an acrid tasting soup. Instead, we want the onions to slowly break down and sort of candy themselves in their own sugary juices. These slowly caramelized onions are the flavor base for this soup, so take your time here. While your onions are caramelizing, preheat your oven to 300 degrees Fahrenheit. Slice a baguette and arrange the slices on a baking sheet lined with parchment paper. I realize this is a low temperature for toasting bread, but I'm less interested in giving the bread color and more interested in drying it out. So putting the slices in a 300-degree oven for 30 minutes will allow me to achieve that extreme level of crispiness. You're caramelizing your onions anyway, you have the time. Once your onions are where you like them and they're starting to catch on the bottom of the pot, deglaze the pot with a 1/4 cup of dry vermouth. I use vermouth because being a martini fan, I almost always have some on hand, but you could use sherry or white wine instead. Fish out and discard your aromatics from your onions. They've done their bit. Now, I like to add 2 heaping tablespoons of Dijon mustard. I find it deepens the flavor and gives the soup a gentle tang. You can totally skip this step if it doesn't speak to you. You could add apple cider vinegar or even fish sauce if that's more pleasing. Or you could add nothing and still have a perfectly stellar soup. Start stirring in 6 cups of stock. And let's talk about that stock. Traditionally, beef stock is used to make French onion soup, but you could keep things vegetarian by using a good quality vegetable stock. Or if you happen to have some great chicken stock, that will work too. Basically, use whatever high quality stock you have access to. There is so little going on in this soup that it pays to use good quality ingredients. There's nowhere to hide anything, so buy your stock from a reputable source or make it yourself. Once the stock is in, bring the soup up to a boil, then reduce to a simmer, and cook for 15 minutes. See, once you caramelize the onions, everything comes together quite quickly. While the soup is on its final simmer, shred about 185 grams of Comté or Gruyere cheese. Once the baguette is out of the oven, place 2 to 4 French onion soup bowls on a baking sheet and place it in the oven. Turn the broiler on. While the broiler is preheating, rub each piece of toasted baguette with a clove of garlic. When everything is ready, it's time to start building your bowls. Take your bowls out of the oven and place 2 to 3 croutons in the bottom of each. Ladle the soup on top and the croutons should rise to the surface. Cover the surface of the soup with cheese and return the bowls to the oven. Broil the soup until the cheese melts and browns slightly. This can take anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes depending on how powerful your broiler is, so keep an eye on it and don't wander away. Once the cheese is where you want it, simply garnish the soup with a sprig of fresh thyme and serve. And that's everything I could think to overthink about this French onion soup. I hope you try this one, and if you do give it a go, let me know how it went in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to this channel. I post a new recipe every week and a ton of goodies along the way. Thank you for cooking with me. I'll see you all next time.